Okay, so to start it off, again, the question is, what is your belief? Or what are your beliefs?
Open interpretation, right?
Open interpretation to that. It doesn't have to be strictly just like, oh, I believe religion.
Just what the fuck do I believe in?
Yeah.
I don't have a religious belief, but I fundamental believer in balance. It's pretty much how I believe in everything, like good and bad. All right, I'll tell you. Since you brought up religion and beliefs, like I'm gonna tell you exactly why I personally don't believe that for a lot of people. Okay, religion, I respect that it does good things for people. Like mentally, a lot of people feel good, and it makes them feel good, and it makes them like do a lot of positive things or try to think in a positive way. So I'm never going to take that away from anybody. But I also believe that, well, no, it's not even just a belief. It's a large fact that religion in the history of history has caused a lot of big problems. I mean, right now, when you look at a lot of the problems we have with a lot of other places and other people, not just politically, but just as a people, a lot of that is rooted in religion, right? But I won't go too into that. Anyways, with my own thing, what I don't like about a lot of religions is they label a lot of things like this figure, this human, or this prophet, or whatever it is in that religion is good. And then there's something else, or someone else, or somebody else that's bad, right? I think
there has to be a bad to balance.
Not even necessarily that, right? So like here's my example. This is a very generic, like, and I have not gone over the Bible, so I don't know specific details, but this is just a very generic example, right? So let's use Christianity, mainly because I work with a lot of Christian people right now. And they're really big into going to church, so I listen to a lot of their beliefs. There's actually a story that I know I've told Danny. Did I tell you my Christian story when I went? I'll tell you that in a second. But the general belief is, they look at the story of Jesus Christ, right? And then his relationship with God, and then among other people, right? So he's a sign of like positivity. And then to people that follow Christianity, there's the figure, goes by numerous names, but people can relate to him as like the devil, right? So Christians, one of their beliefs is that when they sin, whether it's inspired by the devil, right? But a sin is a sin. As in, no matter what they do or sin, it's equal in the sense of like, it's a sin. So if you steal, that's a sin. If you kill somebody, it's a sin. Obviously, as people, one is way more worse than the other, but to them, it's still the equal level of sin. But they'll always attribute like, oh, I was under the wrong influence, I had bad intentions, and they'll somehow circulate and tie that into evil forces or something in them that's kind of influencing that. That's the part that I think is all bullshit. People who try to credit good to something, they say, oh, I'm blessed by God, or I'm just lucky, I'm fortunate. Me personally, I don't ever look at things that way. I don't ever look at there's some other higher belief, supernatural force that maybe is leading me one way or the other. And I think it's necessary to have both. I don't like the distinction that like they make bad things solely bad. Does that make sense? Like they make bad intentions as something that is a negative when that's not true.
Right. Well, it's kind of like to make it in simpler terms. Like when we have curse words in our vocabulary, we don't think of them as bad words. We just use it as our daily vocabulary.
Exactly.
But for a kid, it's like they're taught like, no, that's bad. So it's like it's all about perspective, and it's all about how we visualize or how we interpret what bad is in our state of mind or our, I don't know.
No. And that's my point. It's like bad things, whether it's an experience or like a thought or something, like understand there is obviously bad to it for a reason, but like you learn from shit like that. You learn from things like that. Anything. Again, it can be an experience, a thought process, a choice, whatever. We're all going to make them. And I guess that's the reason why I believe in balance, and I don't believe in a structured religion that tells you those certain things are right or wrong. Does that make sense? Like, I think there has to be balance with people. When people understand that balance is a good thing, it's fine to, be in the highs and lows. That's how I kind of follow through, and that's why I think I'm a little bit more even keel when it comes to that kind of belief thing. But I have a few others, but I don't know. What do you think? Your beliefs?
I don't know. I mean, since there's nothing like specific we're talking about, I just feel like life is basically just what you make it in beliefs. Like, you want to make religion your life, that's what it's going to be. If you want to make money your life, that's going to be your belief. Like, it's just literally how you make life to me. So, I mean, I'm pretty simple about that. Just if you don't want to do shit, your life's going to be shit. Just literally how you make it, how I see it. But I don't really have like a big, because it's not specific enough. It's too broad of a question for me to actually like pinpoint it. But like religion, I mean, we could touch on religion, but I mean, I get it too, why people believe in religion. But to me, it's just beliefs, like just how they see the world versus how I see the world. And they're always going to clash, which is why there's always fights and religious wars and all that. It's just two beliefs crashing into each other.
Right, or like just like kind of straying away from the religion part of it, even with politics, kind of like how Gino was saying, where that is causing a disruption with people. Like, you can't have a civil conversation with another person that has a different belief in politics because someone gets upset.
That's because it's basically crashing someone's world down. Like, you're trying to bring down their world, how they built it in their head. So
right.
You disagreeing or saying you're wrong, it's basically like you walking into their house and destroying their home. Like, that's how they I feel like that's how people play it. Like, they're too sensitive in that sense. But they don't understand that's just another belief trying to shine. You don't have to take it. You could hear it.
Right.
And be okay with it, or you can react defensively and then start clashing, and then arguments happen and nothing gets done.
Yeah. Because it's like, since we have different beliefs, like, there's one thing to talk about it, but there's another thing to try to like influence someone else to not only see your perspective or your side of things. Like, you don't have to agree with it, but for example, like you go for the Phoenix Suns, right?
Yeah.
And,
wow, way to put me on the spot.
And I go for the Lakers, right? So it's like, yeah, we can talk about who's the better team or who has a better chance to make it further or who's going to have the better record this year. But at the end of the day, I genuinely like watching the Suns, and you, I'm sure, like watching the Lakers play, just because LeBron. So it's like, just because we have different views of who our team is doesn't necessarily mean we can enjoy the other perspective or that other team. Like, I feel like that's how I view politics when people talk about it. I could talk to a Republican and try to view their perspective and understand it and still disagree with certain things, but I'm not going to try to influence them to be a Democrat or more like an independent type of thinker. Like, it's just not my goal, and I feel like when people try to talk about things like that and it turns into an argument, is just what causes that.
I'll tell you what causes it, because this I thought a lot about. I'll tell you, there's two things. There's two exact reasons. Here's the fucking answer. One, people don't share their beliefs, they impose their beliefs. And I'll tell you a story about that right now, which is the religious story. The other question, or the other part of the answer on why people argue, is when people are sharing, let's say they are sharing, the people on the other end, they're not listening to listen, they're usually listening to respond. As in, they're not, like you said, maybe when you listen, you're genuinely trying to listen and understand and put yourself in their shoes. Most people aren't doing that. They're just listening to what you're saying that they disagree with, and they're ready to tell you why that's wrong. So most people listen to respond, and that's not listening. You're pinpointing. But here's what I mean by people don't share their beliefs, they impose them. So a few months ago, a coworker invited me to her church. There's a few of them that work at my job, and they all go to the same church. It was I can tell you exactly why I fucking went, but it was more so like I wasn't doing anything. It was a Friday night, and she said, "Hey, you want to come?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah." I mean, that was earlier in the day, so that's also why. But anyways, so I was like, "Fuck it, I'll go." You know what? Like, just to see what's up. So I go in with an open mind. Now, keep in mind, even it's kind of hypocritical. Me going in with an open mind, I have a pretty strong belief that nowhere soon in my life I will ever affiliate with a religion. Not saying never, though. Who knows how I feel when I'm fucking older. Anyway, so I went. So they start their mass, and it's a pretty traditional mass. You both have gone to a mass before, right? So you know they start off with you stand, they do the readings and stuff. So 2 things this lady said really stood out at me. First thing, kind of what I alluded to earlier. This lady had done a lot of experiences. I think she was probably in her late 20s. So she's talking about her early 20s. And we can relate to, we know a lot of people, maybe have dabbled in a bit ourselves, a lot of things that you do in your younger 20s. Whether it was partying, trying stuff, doing some stupid shit, things that you would expect.
Kind of like exploring
Exactly.
who you are as a person.
But, there is definitely negative connotation to a lot of that. I'm not saying it isn't negative. The way she was explaining, and mind you, there's a lot of young fucking kids in this particular mass. I don't know if this Friday night mass was more geared towards younger people, which I think it is. And she's saying, don't ever drink. Don't experience or I know fornication. I was thinking of the word fortify. Fornication, drugs. She was saying blatantly,
I love fornication.
Don't do these things.
So basically become a nun right there on the spot.
Right. So look, I understand the message behind that. I understand the intent behind that. Of course, when we have our own kids, you never want them to make stupid fucking mistakes. But you're also not dumb, and you have to understand that although you don't want people that you care about, not even kids, just friends, you don't want people you care about or family or friends do dumb things, it's also smart to prepare them, right? So do I want my kid to be underage drinking? No, I'm not just gonna say go ahead and do whatever the fuck you want, but at the same sense, I'm not dumb. I was there. They're probably gonna do that. They might try weed. They're probably gonna try to, have some fun when they're young teens. So you see what I'm saying? The point I'm getting at is to just say not do those things. Those are bad. I think is silly because it's unrealistic, and then a lot of the dumb decisions you do, hopefully they're not that dumb where you either get in trouble or get hurt or anything, but they're dumb where you learn something. That's where you learn. I mean, how many times do you learn anything doing the right thing? Not really. It's usually you learn anything, whether it's a school concept, an idea, a life mistake, you learn through those mistakes, right? So I kind of didn't like how she was just blatantly saying don't do these things, bad. No, you learn through that. But here's the real trippy part. Here's where the impose a belief comes in. She was going deep in this mass. She was talking pretty heavy at this point. She's going through, her eyes are watery, and some people are into it, and I'm like, oh shit, what the fuck did I sign up for? And she says, this is almost quote for quote, but she was saying, and this is metaphorical obviously, but she was saying that when the wake of hellfire splashes across the earth and God lifts this church up into the air, who's going to be burned? Okay, so what does that mean? So the way I interpreted it, unless you guys think otherwise, and this is I talked to my coworker after this, and she asked me what I thought, and we talked about this. Basically, if she was saying, if you're not Christian, you are burning in this wake of hellfire. You are not on the right side per se. That's bullshit to me. See, Christians can believe whatever they want to believe. I really don't care. Do not impose that because if I'm not a Christian, I do not fault falter in your beliefs. Does that make sense? Like, that's my problem with any belief. That's just Christianity, but that's my problem with a political belief, a religious belief, or whatever belief. You can believe whoever else believes with your shit if they're doing right or wrong. But just because I don't believe in it, that doesn't make me wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, that's my problem. Because now they're imposing what they think onto me. And I'm like, yo, I didn't check off the list. I didn't check off that I'm this religious suit or this political party or this type of group, you know? I didn't check any of that off.
Right.
So that's my problem, is when beliefs are imposed rather than shared.
So that to me sounds like very narcissistic, because it's like it's either my way or the highway kind of thing. And it's just like, okay, hold on. If we're talking about religion is about having faith, right? It's about giving people hope. You know, because I've been there before when I was in my teen years. Like, I was all about going to church and stuff like that. Not because my parents or my grandma forced me to. It's because I wanted to. Like, I had lost all hope. Or I wouldn't say all hope, but I had lost hope. And I felt like having some type of faith helped out. But eventually I started realizing, like, no, like, the decisions that I make in my life, that's what's shaping who I am, and it's making me feel better. So
You took accountability for your own decisions.
exactly.
Right.
Like, I started realizing, like, I'm moping and that's not helping, so what can I do to make it better? And that's when I found running, and running helped out a lot. And I'm like, wow, like, this is making me more active, it's making me happier. And it's just kind of like that idea of, like, me motivating myself and me kind of putting one foot forward is kind of like my own belief. Like, you literally have to change the belief in faith or believe in religion and kind of believe in yourself. As cliche and as silly as that sounds, like, at the end of the day, you're the only person that can pick yourself up. You know, you can have a support cast, you can have those friends, those family members that'll be there for you, but no one can change your mind. No one can change your mentality unless you choose to change it yourself, kind of thing. So for someone to say, like, no, if you're not Christian, like, you're not gonna make it out there, you're not gonna be saved when all hell breaks loose on earth, like, that to me, again, very similar to you, sounds kind of silly.
It's bullshit.